Good evening, everyone. Welcome. My name is Renee Meske, and I'm the manager of adult public programs at Crystal Bridges and the Momentary. Thank you so much for joining us for this evening's conversation. Throughout tonight's talk, you will notice a QR code on the big screen. That's where you'll be able to submit questions throughout the talk. We will then moderate a Q&A at the end. Before we begin tonight's conversation, I want to acknowledge the deep personal connections that make Rosanne Cash's artistic legacy so resonant. Her work reflects a profound sense of place and purpose, inspiring artists, cultural leaders, and changemakers across many fields. I know we're all excited to see Rosanne Cash on the main stage tomorrow at 6:30, but tonight offers something special. A chance to hear more about the life, perspective, and creative spirit behind the music. To help us begin, I'm honored to introduce someone who shares her commitment to heritage and community. Shane Broadway is a dedicated public servant and advocate for education. He's served Arkansas in various capacities, including Speaker of the House and State Senator. Currently, he's the Vice President for University Relations at Arkansas State University, where Rosanne holds an honorary doctorate. He's also the chairman of the National Statuary Hall Steering Committee of Arkansas, where he led the effort to place a statue of Johnny Cash in the U.S. Capitol, and worked closely with both Rosanne and sculptor Kevin Cressy to bring that vision to life. We're grateful to have him with us here to introduce the program this evening. Please join me in welcoming Shane Broadway to the stage.
Wow, what a great crowd. Good evening. Oh, y'all can do better than that. Good evening. Howdy. I like the howdy part. Thank you. Thank you very much, Renee, for that kind introduction. I am very honored to be here tonight. It's a special occasion. Anytime that I get to be with Kevin and Rosanne. And so I'm going to tell you more about them, not that you probably already know a lot about them, but also introduce them a little more intimately. But please join me in welcoming Rosanne Cash and Kevin Cressy. I'll start with Kevin. He and I, the term we use, and Bridget, his lovely wife, and both of his children are here in case he forgets to recognize them, which I've done before. So I'm going to go ahead and get it out of the way that your kids are here, so in case you forgot. But Kevin and I call it, we've been on a journey together. And so let me introduce you a little bit more about Kevin, what you may not know about him. He's a painter and sculptor based in Little Rock. Exhibited his work in New York, D.C., Memphis, Atlanta, and various galleries and institutions around Arkansas. He was named the 2015 Individual Artist for Arkansas from the Governor's Art Awards. And in 2016 was one of 4 people selected by the Mid-American Arts Alliance to be interviewed for a video celebrating the 50th anniversary of the National Endowment for the Arts. And there's a lot of other accolades. The most important to me is he and I, for the last several years, as I have chaired the National Statuary Hall Steering Committee, we commissioned Kevin to do the sculpture of Rosanne's father, Johnny Cash, the first musician to be enshrined into the United States Capitol National Statuary Hall collection. There are a lot of funny stories about that journey, and we will share some of those if you will join us on July the 13th, Sunday, July the 13th. There was a documentary done about the whole process. It's called Unveiled, Daisy Bates and Johnny Cash, and we will be premiering that here in Bentonville on Sunday, July the 13th at 4 o'clock, location to be determined. But we will do a panel and we will talk about some of those stories and share some of the memories from that process. And so we are very honored to have Kevin here tonight because tomorrow morning he will be doing a commencement speech, 2 of them, at the University of Arkansas at Little Rock.
If anybody's flying
Yeah, he would take a ride home if you got a plane. He needs to get to bed. We are deeply honored to have four-time Grammy Award winner who has 11 number one hits, Rosanne Cash, here with us here tonight. Certainly someone who needs no introduction, but I do want to read a couple of things to make sure I highlight these, because we want you to know about one and want you to go see one and then come to another event that I'm going to mention. Her husband, John Leventhal, who will be with her tomorrow night playing on the stage at 6:30, right, Renee? In 2023, John is also a six-time Grammy-winning songwriter. Do y'all have a competition about that? You have four, he's got six?
He's very proud he has 7. He's very proud he has more than me.
They launched Rumble Strip Records, which is a great name, an initiative to re-examine and reissue her early work, originally released on Columbia and Sony Music and beyond. The first release was a deluxe remastered version and the first vinyl pressing, marking the 30th anniversary of Cash's landmark album, The Wheel. The year 2025 began with the Essential Collection, a 40-song, 2-CD compilation highlighting Cash's deep catalog of songs, including 11 number one hits. The album coincides, which is the last time that we were all three together. It coincides with the Country Music Hall of Fame and Museum exhibit named Rosanne Cash, Time in a Mirror. We were honored to join Rosanne there back in December for the opening of the exhibit. And that exhibit explores her more than 40-year journey as an artist, songwriter, and storyteller, and how she embodied both tradition and innovation across her musical career, and it runs through March of 2026. So we encourage you to visit the Country Music Hall of Fame and Museum in Nashville to see the exhibit. It's a wonderful exhibit and tells an amazing story. She and John are currently writing the music for the theatrical production of Norman Ray. So go to Nashville.
Norma Ray.
Norma Ray. What did I say? Norman?
You said Norman. That's her brother.
Oh, okay. Details. That's what Kevin says. Details. So go to Nashville. So come and see us for the unveiling of Unveiled. Go to Nashville. These are your assignments. Go to Nashville to the Country Music Hall of Fame and see the exhibit. And then on Friday night, September the 12th, come to Jonesboro on the campus of Arkansas State University in the Fowler Center for the Sunken Lands Songwriting Circle. Say that 5 times fast. Sunken Lands Songwriting Circle. It is a magnificent evening of Rosanne and her friends, and I'm going to let her tell if she wants or if we don't know yet. She's picking out her friends who are going to join her that night, and it's a wonderful night where they just sit around on stools and play guitars and sing music, and so you will not want to miss that show. And more importantly, it supports the Johnny Cash Boyhood Home, which is in Dice, which is operated by my institution, Arkansas State University. There, I just paid for my trip to come up here. So, ladies and gentlemen, please enjoy an intimate conversation with Kevin Cressy. I know Kevin Crass too. Kevin Cressy and Rosanne Cash.
Thank you, Shane.
I do know who will be at the Sunken Land Songwriting Circle in September 12th in Jonesboro. Tricia Yearwood is joining me, and an unnamed guest also. And I will be there with John. You're going to come?
I'm going to come.
All right, great.
And we'll try to find that person a name. They would appreciate that. So, this is wonderful. I need to come clean right off the bat, because when I received an email from Crystal Bridges and the Momentary, I was excited, but I did not have my glasses on, so I was doing the squint read, and I was trying to figure out why I was being asked to do a one-on-one conversation with Roseanne Barr. And
that would be difficult from everything I hear.
I had a stack of questions, and they all began with, "What were you thinking when you said?" So it is.
I got to
So,
tell you, my one encounter with Roseanne Barr, we were both on the David Letterman show the same night, and she came up to me and she said, "You're the reason everyone spells my name wrong." I said, "No, you are the reason everyone spells my name wrong."
well, you put glasses on, and it's, wow, what a delight to be here.
I
With-
almost didn't make it.
Yes,
My
heroic
flight was
measures.
really delayed. I got to my hotel at 4:15. So I had to choose between makeup and hair, so I chose makeup.
It's always lovely, and I couldn't be more thrilled to be sitting and getting to see you again. It's always a pleasure.
Thank
So,
you. You too.
Thanks.
Last time I saw you was at the Capitol for the unveiling of my dad's statue, and that was a moment out of time. That's not regular life.
No.
It was so special, and you did such a remarkable job in capturing him. Not just his physical self, but really his spirit. It's uncanny.
Oh, thank you so much. And I was, just to throw it back to you, one of the highlights for the trip was your talk in the Capitol. It was just so poignant and beautiful and right spot on and fit the moment completely. And there were so many other little side things going on, I think, too, with your family, like Aunt Joanne.
My dad's sister is surviving sibling. She's lost her sight, unfortunately, and so she just was able to touch the statue and feel it. It was a very moving moment.
Oh, so it's burned in my memory, that
Yeah.
image of her
Yeah.
trying to find the sculpture and to reach out and to touch him. And she was the first member of your family I met years ago when I was working on Arkansas Heroes musicians. And I was in Jonesboro, and she was there, and we had a meeting set up. And she was just so saucy.
Yeah.
And she said, I said, if you see anything you think's wrong, you let me know. She goes, oh, I'll let you know. But she's been so sweet to me. But what an occasion. And then your father's brother passed just the week before or so.
Yeah.
And then Chris, just right afterwards.
Yeah.
It was, what a time of
Full of-
emotion,
Full of emotion, definitely.
Yeah, that was an event for sure. Well, hey, I thought maybe we would just start talking about places. So you grew up in California, in Southern California. You did a couple stints overseas. You spent a good chunk of your professional life in Nashville, mainly area.
Well, we should say I was born in Memphis.
Right.
So then we moved to California when I was really young, and I grew up there, moved to Nashville for a couple of years. I lived in London for several months,
Yeah.
in Germany for several months, back to Nashville, back to California, back to Nashville, and then I've been in New York City for 35 years.
35, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Married a native.
how dare you? Well,
How dare you? Is that what you said?
yeah.
He's a good guy. We just celebrated our 30th anniversary last week.
Yeah.
Thank you. It was nothing. It really, it was, no, thank you.
We've got them going on. Bridget and I have 33 today, so it's
God
a week of anniversaries.
I read an article today that said, I think it said the number one reason for happiness is a good marriage. And number two is just relationships in general. And I think more than ever we need community. We need our relationships and connection with other people.
Totally.
So that was a timely article.
Totally. I was thinking, you're a big-hearted person. You do a lot of work for anti-violence, especially for children. With your status, I know there's a lot of organizations, a lot of charities that would love to have you on your team. But you've been coming to Arkansas for many years now and have been devoting a lot of time and energy. You want to talk a little bit about your
Well,
connection?
Has it been 15 years?
I think it has been, yeah.
So Arkansas State University was able to purchase my dad's home and boyhood home in Dyess, Arkansas. And it was almost falling to the ground. It was very dilapidated. And they wanted to restore it. So they purchased it. They spent many years restoring it. It was named a National Heritage Site several years ago. That first year after they got it, we started a fundraising concert that we've continued every year. Even during the pandemic, I came down to Dyess and we filmed something inside the house, just me and my husband. And they managed to restore the house, the community building, the little area where the movie theater is. We've got a little museum there. People come from all over the world to visit it. So I'm really devoted to this project, and I've developed deep friendships with many people here in Arkansas. Arkansas State University gave me an honorary doctorate a couple years ago. And did you call me Dr. Cash as I came out?
No,
Because
what?
I require
okay,
that now.
I gotta tell Lauren this.
That's in my contract, Kevin.
No, what happened was they gave you the white jacket that night
Yes,
to wear.
a
with Cash.
doctor jacket.
She gave you a doctor
Yes.
jacket. I was in the other room. I came back around, and you're at the table in your jacket, and you looked at me, and I said, "Oh Lord, do I have to call you doctor now?" And then you put your hand, you go, "You can call me Doc." And so anytime I had to send an email, I go, "Hey Doc," but then I was like,
Yeah, well, I am devoted to this project, and I come back every year, and we've now are doing the songwriting circle. We did do a huge production, and it just became too much, and we couldn't make enough money. So the songwriting circle is fantastic. I hope you all come.
It is. It's just such a wonderful experience to see such incredible talent. I was a huge John Hyatt fan.
We had John Hyatt last year.
Yeah.
Rodney
and
Crowell.
Yeah, it was tremendous to get to be in such an intimate setting and hear the real thing not
Yeah.
without the bells and fireworks of a big production. So yeah, it's amazing. It's just amazing. Did you spend, as you were growing up, much time in the Delta, or was that more of an adult thing? that you
No, not a lot, but I had this album out in 2014 called The River and the Thread, and they were all songs about the South. A lot of songs about the Delta, but also Virginia, and we took a lot of trips through the Delta when John and I were writing the songs for The River and the Thread. We went to the Tallahatchie Bridge, made famous in Ode to Billy Joe. We went to the site where Emmett Till was murdered in 1955, Bryant's Grocery, Dockery Farms, where some of the greatest blues musicians of all time worked in the cotton fields and sang in the juke joints at night. It was really, the trips through there were really profound, and I started to understand why the Delta is so much a part of who we are as Americans. You know, the beauty and the suffering, the literature, Faulkner, and the music. It's so rich here, and I just love it so deeply. And I know I live in New York City and love it from afar, but man, I claim it in my DNA.
I think when I try to describe it to friends, I'm always stumbling on my words because it's not a showy beauty. It's not
No.
the Grand Canyon vista or the ocean, but it's almost like that beauty had just been reduced or distilled down into this haunting, mystical beauty, and you can almost feel the the ghost of the violence
Absolutely.
and everything there. It's palpable.
I was in Mississippi last year. I got a really lovely award from the Grammy Museum in Mississippi in Cleveland. And they have Grammy U there. They call it Grammy U. And they take Grammys into public schools and teach children music. And because, you know, the arts have really been gutted in public schools, and they don't teach much art and music anymore. So Grammy U goes into the schools. It's just a fantastic organization.
That's great. Well, speaking of youth, I'd be interested in hearing about you as a youngster. I've been thinking a lot about creativity and inspiration and where that comes from, and when we start to become aware of it as kids, that there's this secret universe, life that lives deep inside us. And I was wondering for you, when you started to connect to that, did it come in the form of, because you're such a beautiful writer, did it come in the form of language first and then music, or how did that?
It came in the form of feeling different and being lonely and trying to understand how to fit in the world. And I did find it through language. I won a poetry contest when I was 9 years old, and I thought, well, this is a pretty good life. And then I started writing short fiction, poetry, and then eventually songs. I played piano, but I learned guitar late. I learned guitar at the age of 18, which is considered a little late. And it happened when, after I graduated high school, I went on the road with my dad for 2.5 years or so. And on that tour that I was on, that 2.5 years, was Carl Perkins and the Carter family. So I spent a lot of time in the dressing room with the Carter women, and while Dad was on stage, and those women taught me to play guitar, and the first songs I learned were those Appalachian narrative ballads, those Carter family songs, you know, that were so deep and rich and went all the way back to Scotland and Ireland and England. So those were the first songs, and, you know, I was a rock fan. I grew up in Southern California. I loved Joni Mitchell. I loved Elton John. I loved Crosby, Stills, and Nash, everything that was on the FM radio in the 60s and 70s. 70s, no, 60s. And, yeah. And that opened a world to me. I mean, I appreciated what my parents listened to, and my dad, of course. My mother listened to Patsy Cline and Marty Robbins and Ray Charles, and that kind of went in by osmosis. But learning those Carter family songs, the veil was kind of lifted on what I call deep folk, you know, and how that was a feeder stream into country music. And what were the other feeder streams into country music? The blues, protest songs, early folk songs, Southern gospel, rockabilly. And, you know, a world opened up. And again, I realized that is the American treasure chest. That is our library. We own that, and it's just such a beautiful, beautiful thing. So I have been somewhat of a restless artist. I've dipped into a lot of different fields and genres, except for probably not experimental jazz, but everything else. Only because I love it all, and I'm curious about it all.
Well, as Ray Charles said, good music is good music.
Good
right?
music is good music. He also said, you're a better singer at 50 than you are at 25 because your life shows up in your voice. And that is the truth.
Well, I'm past my prime then.
So am I. So am I.
Well, I have a little theory, and I'm thinking about that, like for me, when I was young, my first heroes, artistic heroes, And I felt the same way. It was Michelangelo, Da Vinci, and
Couldn't you find anybody good?
and the Beatles. Yeah, that was the one was lying around the house.
Da Vinci and the Beatles. That is a great song title.
It's yours.
Can I have it?
Sure.
Thank you.
You have witnesses. You got it. But I think it set a bar of excellence
To reach for.
that then when other artists or writers or whatever came along, I could kind of put them in a pecking order. Did they reach that or not? And then some that came along, you're like, oh, you're in the group, and it's almost building a pantheon of these greats.
I don't know that anyone's going to reach Michelangelo and Da Vinci, but I always said that Ode to Billy Joe was a song that I would reach for, you know?
Yeah,
A perfect story song set in 6 scenes, like a Gothic photograph, you know? That's a hard trick to pull off.
yeah, and I think that idea of the inspiration from other works is sort of coming from the same deep place.
Yes.
And so you were talking about some of the early ones, then as your education grew, and then
It
what
spread
about
out, yeah.
writers as well?
Well, I love Jane Austen, but, you know, I'm not ever going to write early 19th century novel. But I love language that has melody, that you can feel the
Right.
rhythm of the writer. And I particularly love it when you recognize the rhythm of a singular writer. You say, oh, that's James Joyce, or that's Faulkner, or that's Jane Austen. And because their voice is so particular. And when I write prose myself, I write it like a songwriter. I try to find the melody and the prose and the language. And I even think, I wrote a memoir that came out in 2010. I need to write volume 2 because a lot has happened since then. But I didn't write it in a chronological order. I didn't go, I was born on a Tuesday and then last week. I wrote it like a songwriter, like things that cycle back to each other, verse, chorus, you know?
I was hoping to be able to bring that up at some point and slip it in there, but if anyone has not read Rosanne's memoir, Composed, it's one of the most beautifully written, honest, fulfilling memoirs
Thank you.
you could read. And I'd say it if she was sitting here, and I'd say it if she was not sitting here. It's the truth. So I think anyone, if you or a friend, family member, especially is interested in some sort of a creative life, it helps you so much because it gives you this behind the scenes of what you're thinking and the doubts and the vulnerabilities and that you go through, as well as the high points, and that it's part of the process. You tend to think
Yes.
you're the only one going through these things, and it's so nice to go, oh, yeah, Rosa.
Well, I teach songwriting sometimes, you know, as a guest teacher in some colleges and university. And I love working with young people because they're so hungry, you know, they want to find out who they are, they want to be good, they want it so badly, and they don't quite know how to get there yet. And they're full of doubt, you know, so they compare themselves to great writers, and then they get discouraged, and they, you know, it dismantles them. But what I tell them is that it's still the same for me. I've been a songwriter for 40, let's see, I'm going to be 70 in 9 days. And I started writing songs at 18, so I can't do that math. You guys figure it out. A long time. And I tell them, I still have the doubts when I'm writing. I still go, where is this going? This will never be as good as Bob Dylan. Why am I bothering? You know, oh, Lucinda wrote that great song. I can't write that great song. It always happens. The difference is that after doing it this long, I know that doubt is part of the process, and I know how not to dismantle myself when it rises up. I know how to keep going. And I think it's that way. It's got to be that way for you, Kevin.
Well, I don't think I ever told you this story, but when I was working on Your Dad for DC, and I was one of the 3 finalists at this point, I'm self-taught. So I have all that kind of a
So am I.
baggage on me. And I would have his head in my lap in the kitchen, and it'd be late at night, and I'm working, and I'd be like, talk to me, you know, and I felt like Dr. Frankenstein in there. And twice, I completely ripped all his hair off and went right back down to the skull again. And this one dark night, I could just see the other 2, because one did the sculptures for Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings movies, and the other one already had 3 or 4 sculptures in the U.S. Capitol. I felt the pressure since I was the only one from Arkansas, but that night I just went, I might need to back out, you know.
Yeah.
And then you sleep and you eat and you go, let's get back on the horse and take it around again. And
I know. I have pulled songs all the way down to the skull, you know, and started over. Or said, I don't know where this is going, and then some kind of door opens up. I mean, I do think the creative process is connected to what we think of as God.
yeah.
That there's a spirit in it that if you can let go and touch and tap into, I believe that kind of creativity is inherent in all of us, every one of us.
Amen.
Even if it's cooking a meal
Yep.
or sewing, or
yeah.
gardening, whatever it is, and just tapping into the beauty of that connects us as human beings.
I love that you're saying this, because I've been thinking so much about this that, so for you to write a song, you go into that quiet place. On that journey, you might pick up whatever flowers and stones and things that you find on that journey inside. You bring it back, you arrange them in a way, and it's a song. It goes out. Unbeknownst to you, someone is playing that song, and it's activating their journey to the inside. And it's like you came and got them and took them by the hand to remind them who they are. That was your song was the catalyst for them to get out of the busyness of traffic in the world and go, oh my God, this is the real me.
Well, that sounds self-aggrandizing to think I could lead someone. What I think is they lead themselves back to themselves, that music, I consider myself to be in the service industry.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, it's the service industry of feelings and revelation and emotions, and, you know, the function of music is to open the heart.
Totally, yeah.
And Bob Dylan said something great about that too. He said, the audience doesn't come to know about your feelings, they come to feel their feelings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I think, not to be self-aggrandizing about what you're doing, but I think, don't sell yourself short, that you had gone to an honest place that created something that really moved them and got them. It was their ticket through that portal. And it can be a piece of artwork, and it can be so many things, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that what you said about honesty, I think authenticity is immediately so if you're self-conscious, or you put on airs, or you try to preach,
Yeah.
that just turns people off.
Yeah.
But authenticity is relatable.
Yeah, you were talking earlier about when you were young and you won the poetry contest, and I didn't want to one-up you at the time, but
Uh-oh.
here
What
it
did
comes.
you win?
It's coming
What
in for
did
a
you-
landing right here.
What did you win?
Well, so I wrote a poem called
Oh.
My Lea, L-E-A, which I obviously stumbled across in a dictionary because I have not used the word ever since in my 60-something years.
Is that like the lee shore?
It's like a grassy opening.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, yeah, so
Because Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young had all along the lee shore.
they stole it from me.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. You're not that
So-
old.
So the teacher, we had an assignment, we all wrote our poems and turned them in. And then she was reading poetry to the class, and she read Robert Frost or whatever, and then she read my poem.
Oh, that's sweet.
And she
How
said,
old were you?
7th grade. And so she said, does anyone know who wrote that poem? And so anyway, when the class cheered, I went, well, I'm now a writer. I need to go get a cape, an eye patch, probably a cigar, and give my gifts to the world. And so I think my next poem had something about, I thought, well, I need to make them weep immediately. So I wrote a poem about pennies on the eyes or something like, and my sisters, I'm number 10 out of 11, so you can't get away with being pretentious for
Right.
2 or 3 seconds. And they were just like, what? That is a big, and that was the end of my poetry career right there.
Well, in 7th grade, I went to Catholic school for 12 years. Still getting rid of the guilt. But,
We just throw it back and forth to
yeah,
each other.
just throw it back and forth. So in 7th grade, the nuns gave the class an assignment to write a paper on similes and metaphors. And the difference between similes, which is that you say something is like something, and a metaphor when you just say something is something. So this is like the first thing that these nuns had ever asked me to do that I was remotely interested in. And I loved this. And I cut out pictures for similes and metaphors. And so when I was writing songs for my album, The Wheel, my mother sent me a box of all of my papers from grade school. And we didn't call it middle school then. You just were in elementary school. And I went through it, and I found this paper on similes and metaphors. And I remember like the thrill that I had writing this paper. And there was a line that I used, a metaphor, a lonely road is a bodyguard. And I thought, man, that's a really great line. And it's a metaphor. It's not a lonely road is like a bodyguard. It's a metaphor, not a simile. I took that line and I put it in a song I was writing. And I actually gave a TED talk about this.
Wow.
About waving to my 12-year-old self and her waving back to me, that she knew who I was, I knew who she was.
That's
and
great.
every time I sing that song, there's a feeling of connection and time travel
Yeah.
and unification. And, you know, the fact that she planted that seed for me and that I was able to take it is just the most
Yeah,
beautiful thing.
It is. That's incredible. Question though, on the album, when you put a date on it, did you put started 1960 and it finished?
I should have. That would have been,
You might have had a Guinness Book of World Records on the longest written song.
probably. Are we ready for questions and answers? Is she, I think she's,
Okay,
Yes, thank
we're
you.
good?
yeah.
Yeah, we have some great questions from the audience here. The first one is from Henry, who says, "To me, you embody a rare authenticity and honesty in your music. Who else do you hear carrying that same spirit today?"
Is this addressed to me or both of us? Probably both of us.
Yeah.
Well, Lucinda Williams, she's got beautiful no filter, and luckily she's as poetic as hell, so that no filter serves her. I think Steve Earle has that. I mean, you know, some of the great country artists who were gone, my dad and George Jones and those people. I like the band The Decemberists. I think Colin Malloy is a great, great writer. A lot of young people right now are writing. Well, Jason Isbell is not so young, but I think he's a fantastic writer. I mean, there are a lot of people. I have lists. And my kids turn me on to people too. My son in particular. My son's a record producer, and he produces a lot of indie bands and alternative artists. I get really into those kids too. They're so raw. They're not afraid to say anything. It's really inspiring.
I was going amen to every, you know, that you were talking about. But I was also thinking, too, about the whole idea that when you're talking about the younger people coming up. And my daughter Greta's in school here at Fayetteville, and she posts a lot. And I've never seen so many young female artists with an acoustic guitar. She's always posting. There seems to be so many coming up, and I found that very encouraging.
I think Taylor Swift did a lot for those young girls, and she's a great writer. She really is. I don't think she gets enough credit for her writing, because she's so, you know, such a star.
One other artist I wanted to say is that we had just come back and we were on a walk, and I heard at the Whitewater Tavern, and I was like, that sounds like Parker Millsap.
He's a great writer,
and he
too.
had a band
Yeah.
with him, and it was
Yeah.
a tremendous show. Yeah.
Okay, great
Thank you.
question.
Yeah, and kind of following on the theme of inspiration, Art wants to know, Rosanne, can you talk about the list of 100 songs your dad gave you and how it inspired your work?
Well, it was the same tour that the Carter family, the Carter women were teaching me those songs. So we were on the tour bus one day, and my dad was playing the guitar in the back of the bus, and I said, I don't know that song. And he looked at me like this, and then he was playing another one. I said, I don't know that one either. And he got really alarmed. And he said, you should know these songs. And he spent the afternoon writing a list of 100 songs on a yellow legal pad. And across the top, he wrote 100 essential country songs. And he gave me the list. And he said, this is your education. And I learned those songs, and I understand why they're essential. I'm going to do some of them tomorrow night, a couple of them. Long Black Veil, you know, some of the great, great American roots songs.
Wonderful. Another question we have from Alyssa. You described someone's work as a goth photo. What would you describe your songwriting style or album or specific song?
My songwriting style? I think I would have to have somebody else tell me that, you know, because it's coming outwards. I mean, I don't, Americana, this lady says. Yeah, I mean, I think that I'm a lyricist who doesn't, I'm a lyricist. So I think a lot of times, and particularly in pop music, the lyrics just serve a beat, and I've never been that kind of writer. I don't always start with lyrics first, but often, most often that's what happens, because I love language, I love poetry. I learned a lot from great songwriters when I was young. Guy Clark was really important to me. And he taught me a lot, and he said, you have to throw out the best line of your song if it doesn't serve the rest of your song. He was ruthless in his discipline. So I learned that kind of discipline, and that songwriting is not a poor cousin to literature or poetry. It's its own discipline, and I respect songwriters. I respect myself as a songwriter. So if I had to describe it, I would say it's in the broader realm of folk music, because it's heavily lyric dependent. And, but that can cover a lot of territory, the bigger umbrella of folk music.
Thank you. And I think we have time for one more. This one's from Nathan. He says, Rosanne, I've dreamed entire songs a few times in my lifetime, and then they disappear into the ether before I can write them down, often only remembering the hook. Do you ever dream your lyrics into creation?
Yes, I do. I keep a pen on the nightstand. Yeah, and then sometimes I lose it too, and it'll stick with me. It'll come back later. I think that inspiration comes from a lot of directions and a piece of a conversation. I think what the key is to stay open to it. And if you get stuck, to find your particular things that inspire you, whether it's going to look at visual art, whether it's just making a cup of tea and looking at it, the nature, whatever it is for you to build your bridge to your own creativity. Wait, I'm going back to the question about inspiration, about losing it. There's a great story about Tom Waits, who's, I think, is a fantastic writer, another one who I love. And he said, this was before phones and writing things down or recording. He said he was driving on the freeway and he got a great idea for a song. He's on the freeway, there's no paper, there's no pen, it's before iPhones were invented, and he was deeply frustrated because he was gonna lose it before he got to his destination. And he looks up and says, "Don't you see I'm driving?" So I feel a lot of times that I have to keep my catcher's mitt on by staying open and staying curious and listening, because if I don't catch that one, somebody else is going to get it. Lucinda's going to get it.
That'd be just like her.
Just like her. Arkansas lineage as well. Her father was
Miller
from
Williams. Yeah.
Miller Williams was from Tyronza. Is that
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, and then taught at Fayetteville, I believe.
Yeah.
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 Is that it?
Yeah, I believe those are all the questions that we have time for today, but thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thanks,
for
Kevin.
Thank Rosanne for her heroic effort to get here, like she does.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I just want to remind people, go see Rosanne perform 6:30 tomorrow. There's also an exhibition with icons of rock happening in the galleries, where you can see pictures of Johnny Cash and other icons of rock throughout the festival. Thank you.